Hey everybody, this is Giancarlo Alino reporting for Sportskeeda MMA, and I'm happy to be joined by my guest here. He's going to be competing at Bellator 290. He is a welterweight that comes from the royal family of MMA. He's Neiman Gracie. How you doing, Neiman?
Doing great, and it's a pleasure to be here.
That's great. And Neiman, this training camp that you're in right now, how you feeling ahead of this big debut show on CBS for Bellator?
Feeling great, man, and I can't wait. I'm fighting in my backyard here in LA, and I just can't wait.
And this fight, unfortunately, your previous opponent there, Michael Lombardo, you were scheduled to fight him, and unfortunately that fell through. And you have a replacement opponent coming in on just 2 weeks' notice, and Dante Schiro. So, how did that change your preparation for this fight?
Doesn't change anything because I always have the same game plan for every fighter, so no changes in my end. So I just go out there, and it's no secret what I'm gonna try to do. Try to take him down and finish him with a submission. So it doesn't matter who it is, the game plan is always the same.
And in Bellator, you're one of the fighters that it's kind of like a homegrown star. You've been for the promotion, a lot of big fights for them. You fought some of the top guys in the division. What does it mean to you to be included on this? That they're going to be debuting on CBS, big network show for them, and they asked you to be on this card.
It's amazing. Like they always been so good to me, and I think I always put on a show for them. So it's a two-way street, and it's gonna be great to represent Bellator again and to represent my family and everything.
Of course, there. And just speaking of your family, the legendary Gracie in Jiu-Jitsu, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and everything your family's done in MMA. Just curious, like when did you start getting involved in Jiu-Jitsu, and like what excited you from that age that you started?
To tell the truth, I don't remember because it was too early. Everything started as a game in the house. Like my father is a black belt, so we start playing at the house, and then he showed me how to choke, and then he showed me how to do arm bars. And on the beginning, I thought it was just a game. And then when I was around 3 or 4 years old, he started taking me to the gym with him, and it's just like a big game on the beginning, and then everything starts to take shape, and you start to understand what you're doing. So it started really, really early, and I don't even remember when.
Oh, that's great. And like, were you ever involved in other sports or other martial arts, or it was just jujitsu from that young age?
On the beginning, it was just jiu-jitsu. Then I started doing judo. Then I started taking kickboxing classes. But I always did a bunch of sports like soccer, surfing, and everything, man. Everything they put in my way. I always love sports. So I love sports, especially if it's one against one. For me, is the best. I used to be get a little pissed off when I play soccer because I depend on other people. But I love sports.
Who are some of the soccer players you grew up watching?
Oh my, the best ones and Brazilian. So Romário, Ronaldo, Ronaldinho, Kaká, you can name it. Like best guys.
I love it there. And also
Yeah.
like just the MMA, like everything, like going into that, like your transition into MMA, like you started doing jujitsu and grappling tournaments I've followed. And when did that come about? Like, were you steered into that direction of MMA, or were you just happy at the time, maybe just being a grappler and competing in grappling tournaments?
MMA was always the number one plan that I wanted to do. I always wanted to fight MMA, but you have to start somewhere. And what I had available was the jiu-jitsu competitions. So I did a bunch of them. I got into a point that I was competing every weekend. And then when I got a little bit older, I switched it to MMA.
And what were those competitions like at the time? Were they a lot of opponents in one day, or were they like
Yeah.
split out throughout the week? Well,
One time I fought 13 matches in one weekend. Yeah, that was the most I did. The next day I couldn't move. My body was so sore. But yeah, in jiu-jitsu, usually you have a bunch of matches in one day. So it was really, really fun, and you learn a lot about yourself and how to compete and how to win. So it was really important.
And that team environment of jiu-jitsu too, because you're representing a team when you're going in there, and just that camaraderie that you have. Is that the biggest takeaway from just all those competitions that you competed in?
Yes, one of them. There is a lot of things to take away, like competition usually doesn't matter what type, especially in fighting. You learn a lot about yourself. You learn to deal with your fears, and you learn to deal with your mistakes. You learn to lose, you learn to win. So there's a lot of good things to take from competition.
Of course. And just coming up to this fight, it's a big one there in the welterweight division, just because of how things are going right now. We have Amasov coming back. They're going to unify that title. So everything's going to flow probably nicely after this event. If you get the win here, is there an opponent you're circling that you have your eye on, that when John McCarthy's in the cage there asking you what would you like next, do you have anybody you're going to call out in mind?
Not really, not this time. I don't know. I just want to compete, like I said, so it doesn't matter. Whoever comes my way will be a nice challenge.
And at welterweight, is this like a weight that you walk around at, close to 170? Is it a tough weight cut to get down? Like, what's it like when you're competing at welterweight?
It's a little tough weight cut, For me, that's one of the hardest parts. Is to make the weight, but I always done it, and I'm just a professional. So when I signed the contract that I gotta make that weight, I will make the weight. But I wish that we had more weight divisions, like 170, 175, 180, 185, 190, So I think this is the next step to our sport, is to add more divisions to the table.
Would you consider yourself, like, if they asked you, we have this fight at 185, is that something you like to test yourself in, or do you think some of those guys are just too big at that weight class?
No, I would definitely do it. I did it before. My first fight was at 185, and I'll definitely do it for sure. It'll be fun.
And also, like, I remember one of your recent fights there. I know a lot of people, when they see your name, obviously it's like, okay, grappling is going to come up there. And you surprised one of your opponents there. Was Mark Lemminger, is at Bellator 266. I remember watching this, and I guess you introduced him to Gracie striking. You got the TKO win there. So is that like something that you have, a tool that you have, that although you do have that grappling background, like some of these guys need to take notice that you also have striking as well?
Definitely. It's good to be complete and to know everything, It's like this, they say, it's better to know something and you don't need it to use it, than you need to use it, but you don't know how to do it. So that's under the sleeve. So if I need, I will definitely use it.
That's great. And also, just in and around MMA, like your team right now, is there some fights that you guys are preparing for that you have your eye on after yours is done? Hopefully you get the big win there. What's the next fight for your team that you guys are going to be dialed in to help support?
We have a bunch of good guys fighting, but the one that we're really looking for is to get Beneil Dariush to fight for the title. So we've been waiting for them to give him that opportunity, and we are all very excited for him, and we can't wait for him to fight for the title, because we know that he's going to win.
And just even that lightweight division, just speaking of Dariush, he's been on an impressive run there in the UFC. How do you think he would match up there against Islam Makhachev or Alex Volkanovski, depending on if he gets a win there?
Dariush?
Yeah.
Oh, I think he'll do great. I think he's the one to beat Makhachev. And I don't think Volkanovski will beat Makhachev. So I think the one to win that fight, to give a good fight against Makhachev, is going to be Beneil for sure.
Neiman, before we wrap up here and let you go, how can our viewers here at Sportskeeda MMA stay up to date with everything you're doing and following you on social media?
Yeah, just follow me on social media, especially on Instagram. That's where I post the most, at Neiman Gracie, and you guys will be up to date over there.
Highly recommend that follow. And Neiman, I appreciate you sharing your time here and coming on Sportskeeda MMA to talk about your upcoming fight at Bellator 290. And I wish you all the best on February 4th.
Thank you, brother. It was a pleasure.